Welcome back to Gintama Anime Review. This is episode number 6. Yeah, even though I just did a Gintama Anime Review yesterday, but thinking though, what, you finished the season already? Was the season like 51 episodes? No, it was 13. Yes, 13 episodes. This overall, it basically was 3 story arcs and 1 standalone episode. Yes, this particular season were just 3 story arcs. These were Gintama, Courtesans of a Nation, and Beam Sword Style. First it was Gintama, which in the manga this was about 9 chapters. In the anime it took up the first 4 episodes of the particular season. And at the start of this basically is a joke, yeah, we were off there for 6 months, which is indeed true. They were out there for 6 months and they came back. And the whole thing with this particular arc is that there's a new character called Kentucky, who is kind of like Gin, except that he's got a smaller of a head. He's got gold hair, and because he kind of took over the manga when this was going on, so he kind of takes over the anime as well. He's in basically the entire title sequence. Yep. Apparently, he's a robot. Yeah, they reveal this at the end of part 1 that he's a robot via like when he's taking a bath and comes out, apparently he's washing his head. Yeah, he's a freaking robot. And apparently using brainwaves to manipulate everybody's memories. Even the whole series thinking that he was he's the main character, even though he really isn't. Yeah. The thing after this particular arc is that after this arc, this character never appears again until the final arc of the series. And by the way, this is actually one of the very few characters. Gin does not like this character, doesn't despise him like other characters would. This one he just doesn't really like at all. Nope. Eventually he convinces 3 women, 2 of whom were actually in love with him, to turn against them. Yeah. Now, there's actually 2 people who actually were immune to this special brainwaves and manipulated memories. The only 2 who were immune to this were Tama, because she resets herself before she shuts it out, and Sotoru, who is a dog. Yep. There was even a joke in the part when he's basically beating him a bunch of DVDs. It's like, here's a bunch of Naruto, a bunch of Bleach, One Piece. I thought that was so funny, the fact he actually was beating the crap out of him for doing that. And Azumi, first and only time in the series that she ever hits Gin. Yes, the only time. Yep. Eventually she gets, free from Kintama's influence. From Kin's, by having Gin, save her twice. Second time, after she left the building, the second time basically she got saved by is when he had her land when he landed on top of her, making her thing. In the case of the other 2, Tatsuru, it was of course, remaking their memories. Of course, there's even the image of one of the 2 times that Gin groped one of her breasts, basically grabbed one of her breasts. Yeah. As for Kyubi, basically her going nuts over a man touching her. By the way, she actually pops up in this arc and the following one. Also, this is the first, I would say one of the very few arcs that Cameron and Cuba interact. Yeah, they don't interact very much. And eventually they get freed. They take him down and eventually do like a parody of what looks like a high school anime. They sang Keen 2. Eventually he gets... and by the way, he was actually created by the robot creator of the series. Makers of robots. I think it's Genta, I think his name is. He's the one who also is one who built Tama to her current look. Yep. This was a pretty interesting arc. It didn't really affect the series very much, unlike the other 2 arcs did, but it was a good arc nonetheless. Next one was Courtesans of a Nation. This one was by far of the 3 arcs. This one was the longest at 5 episodes. In the manga, this was at least only 4. Actually, it was like five Actually, yeah, this was 5 chapters. Yeah, same amount. Yep. Now, this is the one where they bring back Numi. Yeah, this is actually her second appearance in the series. Yeah, she comes back a little more nice than she was the last time she showed up. Yeah, and I've read online there's many comparisons between her and a comic from a comic company. Appearance-wise, she looks almost exactly like her, except she's got a different hair color and different outfit. I mean, the only thing I have a comment, aside from the fact their face and hairstyle is pretty much the same, except for hair color, is the fact the great swordswoman. Also, they have a thing for particular food. For Namu, it's Namiyu, I think it's a pronounced name. For her, it's donuts. For Akame, it's meat. Kind of like Luffy, he loves meat. hmm And the story of this one is that there is this old prostitute who's still a prostitute her age, and she really wants to reunite with one of her old clients before he passes away. So Gin goes along with Kagura, Totsuko, and Shin. The four of them go to the palace. They search for figure who it could be. They figure it's the Shogun, so they go visit him. But then they remember though Kagura is best friends with the Shogun's sister. Like, okay, get in that way. And of course, that's when they run into her again. For Gin, this is the second time he's actually run into her. The other two have never met this woman at all prior to this arc. And she is quite hilarious, aside from the whole eating thing. There's this one little hilarious thing after the Shogun shows up, he gets knocked out, and the Shogun's uncle, who was the previous Shogun, he was the 14th Shogun of the series, he was the 13th Shogun. He explained that he was the one who was actually behind the whole thing with how the world is right now in the series, that he was the one who organized that particular treaty, that unfair treaty that basically ended the Joseon War. And yeah, this guy is an evil person. I think this is by far the only time in the series, one of like 2 or 3 times he actually showed up. Yep. When he's talking to him, he's like, when he first sees his nephew, and of course, Kagura and Namu just. I thought this was so hilarious because the Shogun is knocked out. Though I think this is one of his doubles because it's revealed this is one of his doubles, and they're just acting like regular prostitutes. Like he somehow got his own loose women. It looks like an absolute hilarious scene, and this is probably by far the first time that Tetsuro and Namu have actually ever met. Now, for Tetsuro, this is only like her third or fourth appearance in the series. I mean, the first time she appeared Young in Fire. She's only appeared in, I'd say, about 6 or 7 arcs by now. The Yellow Woman, this is her second appearance. And of course, Mizuzumi shows up as well. And of course, the chief gets stabbed, gets taken to the hospital. Oh yeah, and it turns out the guy who actually stabbed him was the evil Shogun. He was he was the main villain of this whole arc. And it turns out that he was not the one who was who this courtesan was waiting after. It was the retainer who lost one of his arms years prior, and then eventually he lost his other arm. But it is a very interesting arc, and this one did affect the series. Toward the end of the arc, the Shogun actually resigns. But the Emperor, I'm glad they kept the Emperor in the series. I'm like, is there an Emperor in the series? Yes, there's an Emperor. Yep. As for which Emperor it is, I don't have any idea who it is, but yeah, since 1860s, it could be anybody. Yeah, I'm kind of glad they mentioned the fact Japan has an emperor because, well, during this period of time, they have an emperor. Currently, right now, they have an emperor right now who is about to end. I think he just ended. It's the Hensai. Yes, the current one it's the Hensai era is about to end soon. Yep. Yeah, I don't really know who the emperor is, but I'm glad the fact they referenced it. This is probably for the first time they ever referenced the Japanese emperor in the entire series. Eventually, the guy himself, the evil Shogun, gets killed. Who kills him? Why, he's no friend. He was the main villain of the Baku's Sword arc. He's popped roughly a handful of times in the series. He has his own rebel group. Yeah, the guy with the bandages over one of his eyes because it got damaged, because he injured his eye during the war. Surprising, he went eye patch, but This by far was a really good arc, and of the three arcs that they had this season, this was the best one because it was exciting, got a lot of action. Also, it turns out that the evil Shogun had on his payroll the guy who took away Gin's master, and is also responsible for killing his master. When she found out about that, she was shocked, and she basically was like very concerned about Gin, despite the fact he had been pretty much this whole arc had been stabbed. I think he had been shot. He'd been throwing needles at him, and I thought it was so hilarious. And when they have Namu basically getting a donut in this one, last time it was because of a fishing rod. This time he just takes out a donut and she just sort of eats it. Also leaves a bite mark in his hand. Also kind of breaks his hand, but he puts it back in place. I thought it was so funny. And eventually he brings in the entire police force of the whole country just to stop the evil Shogun. And the current Shogun is like, they're not the traitor, you are. Because all you care about is yourself. You don't give a damn about this country. And this is kind of paraphrasing what the Shogun himself actually says. Yeah. But really exciting arc. It has a really sort of a sad ending to it because the retainer does get a chance to reunite with the woman he had previously loved, and he kind of fulfilled his promise. So he couldn't exactly hold her because he had no arms. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's even a funny moment where they're all in jail, and Sarah basically comes in and is like, yeah, I guess apparently, and basically is apparently she sleeps next to her for some reason. Apparently she's her bodyguard. Okay, yeah, but this arc it doesn't affect the series, and it does introduce somebody who will pop up in the Shogun assassination arc. Yep. Those who are curious where I am at that in the manga, as we're starting manga right now, I'm actually at the final arc of the manga, and I'm about I have like 55 chapters left to go over the whole manga, so I should probably hopefully be able to finish the manga before I finish it the next season. The last arc is a connection to something that happened way back in the pilot. This was the Beam Sword arc, when they bring back a character who they have a character who only shows in this one arc only. Apparently, he's no friend of Shin, Shinpachi and his sister. Yeah, where he's referred to as her first love. hmm I should point out though, Kaido appears in like almost every episode this whole season, which is a bit unusual for him. Sometimes he goes about 2 or 3 episodes, doesn't show up, and yet this particular season he shows up like almost every single episode, which has been unusual for him. All this also I should point out though, coordination was this really funny moment when Soto was talking to all of them because all accused of murder, accused of assassination, treason. Yeah, and Kagura and Nabu just punch out Soto. It was so hilarious. It was by far one of the most funniest things. Eventually, how the retainers allow to see the courtesan again is they play a game of kick the can, and Gin kicks the can all the way to Yaguza. hmm And the Shogun is like, he wants to play the game. Yeah. And he also praised, before this, he did praise Gin's group for protecting a loyal retainer. Let's say we're curious though, what is a retainer? It's simply put somebody who is hired to be sort of a teacher, somebody who's kind of like an advisor to some high official. This is what I know about what a retainer does. Basically, that's sort of like a mentor to whoever they're hired by. That's simply the whole point of a retainer. hmm I know for a fact that they had this in in the Sentai. They had this in the one that was used for Power Rangers Samurai. They had a retainer in that one, the Sentai for that one. It's something you don't hear very much for retainers. They've also used this particular term. This is not the only anime to use this particular thing. Would have you have a very high official who has a retainer. They also use this in One Piece. Yes, they use this in One Piece, where they have this son of a daimyo who actually has 3 retainers. Yep, 3. hmm So not the first series to have this. That I've seen, but it's nothing unusual for a series that's made from Japan, and you have a high official who's got a retainer, or at least a noble, As far as I know, Bleach never had. I think Bleach had this briefly like one arc, but that was it. As far as I know, I can't think of any arc that actually had. You have a high level official and they have a retainer. Mm-hmm. You think of retainer like, okay, you mean a thing that goes in your mouth? That's why I think of retainer. But from what I can tell, basically it's a teacher, kind of like a sensei in a way, but someone was hired to look after people. That's simply put what the retainer is. Mm-hmm. Also, kind of like some kind of like bodyguard. Mm-hmm. But back to Deviant's Arc, this one is simply put a ripoff. It's a parody of Star Wars. By the way, the instructor basically he gives himself the nickname of Obi-Wan, and his last name is Kenobi, almost like Kenobi, and he kind of looks like Earl McGregor. I'm not kidding. If you look at this guy, he looks almost exactly like him, but without the thick beard. Mm-hmm. The whole point and the whole beam sword thing, yeah, it's basically a lightsaber, but with the handle being from an actual traditional Japanese katana. Mm-hmm. This was a pretty interesting arc. I wouldn't say it's a weak arc, but it's the shortest of all three arcs, being only 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, only 3. Yeah, I mostly put it just a plot to try to destroy the world. Um, it does have a small effect in the series. I like the previous arc, which did have effect in the series. The effect of this one is not very much. It just affects a few of the characters, but it's almost like a throwaway arc. But it has real no effect in the series at all because everyone goes pretty much exactly the way they were. Also, this is one of 2 times this whole season that Hiruka, the homeless guy who, when he first showed up back in the first season, he was a bureaucrat and now he's homeless. Yeah, this is one of, in the final episode of this one and the next episode are his only 2 appearances this whole season. Azumi in the final episode is their only appearance the whole season. Um, Surprisingly, Cheese and Gumi actually appear in if you watch this entire season, they appear in pretty much. Actually, no, they actually do skip one arc. They actually do skip the Gintama arc. Mm-hmm. They're not there, surprisingly. I'm kind of like, I would thought they would be manipulated by the whole thing of this guy, but no Shinsengumi, which is actually ever surprising. But Shinsengumi did show for Beam Sword, Coordination, the final episode, but surprisingly they were not in Gintama, which is weird, because generally during a chunk of these arcs, I would have thought their connection to Gin would have been affected, but I don't know, maybe the writer forgot about these characters. I don't know, it's really weird. Mm-hmm. Of course, the thing ends with the guy who shows in the first episode dies at the end of the third one. It was an okay arc, wasn't terrible. I I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting, though. All it was is just a ripoff of Star Wars. Oh, and the aliens who sent them there to do the thing you do are ripoffs of Yoda. I mean, their appearance is basically ripped off from Yoda, and they have to wear a mask. Now, my personal theory, the reason why they have our mask is probably because of the animators and probably the writer of the series doesn't get a copyright claim from Lucasfilm over the use of Yoda. Though it's slightly different, though these creatures do have green skin. Mm-hmm. The last episode, I'm thinking, this episode looks like a filler episode. It kind of is, but it actually is from the manga. Yeah, it's just the odd jobs basically have no food. They have food shortage, so at one point, because Gin and Kagura are still part of what was left of Shotoru's food, so Shotoru just runs away. He also marks his territory by peeing on the front door. So he goes looking for food. Eventually, he finds his puppy. It looks like he's about to eat it, but he stops himself. Eventually, he just takes care of this puppy, and eventually, the puppy takes very good. He feeds the puppy, and he also tries to get the puppy at home. I mean, the first place he goes to is the Shinzagumi headquarters. I'm like, that was weird. Then he goes to Zumi. Surprisingly, he doesn't go to I'm trying to think, what was her name? Kirito. Yeah, surprisingly, he doesn't go to her place, which is a little weird. The fact that he doesn't. So I'm like, that's weird. Why doesn't he go there? Maybe because he's never been there. That's a possibility. Then how would he know where the Shinzagumi headquarters is? He also passes by Hijagawa. Yeah, for a brief cameo. He doesn't say anything. Eventually, the puppy is taken in by relatives of. It turns out the puppy is actually belonging to this old man, and of course he ran out because he had no food. So eventually, at Twitter, they managed to have Gin take the puppy and give it to the granddaughter, and of course they had their sort of share of food. But yeah, but this was just it was an interesting episode. It was a great. The final episode of the season was a good character piece for sure. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, though, this was a pretty good season. Um, the season itself, even though it's a 7 season series, it's called Gintama Enchousen. Yep, that is the name of the season. It technically is the sixth season of the whole series. Mm-hmm. But the next season, I'm gonna watch it. This will be the only season I watch dubbed because there are no other episodes dubbed aside from this one season. So yeah, expect to see a review of this probably in a few days. Probably maybe sometime this weekend or probably next week. It just depends exactly when I finish the season up because it is 51 episodes, and also next season is the last one that is this length because the other ones are not this length at all. Not even the current season right now. It's only about 23 episodes in. It's not even length at all. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, that's it for this episode. Uh, Stay tuned for tomorrow for my 800 Comic Corner. I would do it, but it's getting kind of late here. Mm-hmm. But I expect to review tomorrow. And yep. So until I see you next video. Bye.